Hello, fellow reader. Welcome to a house in January, which is in the Northern Hemisphere and is darker by the moment. So I'm afraid I've got double halos from a little light up there. Every single light in this room is on, and it still is probably going to look to you like I'm speaking to you as a voice from the gloom. But anyway, we're here for the books. And this is my latest update on last seen reading, which today I was thinking about and considering that actually that would look quite good in my tombstone if I had one. Last seen reading, just it's a great summary of my life, and anybody who is a friend of mine will instantly recognise it. My friends are always sending me photographs from on social media that they found of staircases made out of books or a Christmas tree made out of books or whatever. The bookish theme is well and truly there. Now I'm fresh back from the library and therefore I have some new books to show. So I'll talk a bit about those. There's just 4 of them, and then I'll speak a bit more catch up on books I've talked about before. So here we go. First book is really small. Virginia Woolf. Carlyle's House. Now, if you think that's a book of hers that has escaped you, it's Carlyle's House and Other Sketches, and they're literally little tiny early writings of her. Here's the amount that she actually wrote, which is about 15 pages, and either side are introductions and notes upon it all. So, however, I like it because it's going to be accessible and encouraging. One of the first things she does, the Carlyle's House, is literally she visits a house and comments on it. And she had this lovely thing, because I always look into a book before I actually take it. And it's now become a bit of a kept as a kind of living museum. So here's what she says. But Chean Row is spoilt, and Carlyle's house already has the look of something forcibly preserved. It is incongruous now, set between respectable family mansions. I love that. Something forcibly preserved. Just sounded quite good. So at the very start it also mentions about her early writing and how she got a rejection slip when she submitted her first piece of fiction to a national magazine. It was rejected. And for those of us who, like me, are a writer, wow, that's very encouraging stuff, that when you're doing early stuff for magazines, you may be rejected. So this tiny little book won't take long to read. It's not a book, it's a booklet, under 100 pages, but it's really a pamphlet. And next I picked up something which I'm looking to explore. The Teachings of Don B. It's writings of Donald Barthelme. Don't know how you pronounce that. And this is Satires, Parodies, Fables, Illustrated Stories and Plays gathered together. And the reason I picked it up is because I have a set of postcards of modern Penguin writers, and his face looked fun and mischievous, and out of the whole pack of 100, one of the ones that you would think, actually I would like to sit down and have a conversation with this person. I think he would be fun. So it's odds and ends, and some of it is illustrated. I'll flick through, you'll see it's very short little article type things, and then he has little illustrations, and it's like sketches and kind of almost museum of curiosities, but it's a book. So I'm looking forward to reading this and seeing what it's like. It's probably the kind of book you can dip and dive into as well. Next, I want to talk about the perfidy of libraries. The library I was at today is in Edinburgh, and it really is positive about talking about people who are from the area and so forth. And of course, one of the best writers is Muriel. And I recently, last year, started to read her books and discover, guess what, she is brilliant. Like so many people who are listed as classics, it's for a reason. It's because they are great to read. So I went and looked under fiction for S and could not find any spark, and was surprised, astonished, startled. And then as I walked to the poetry section, which they had moved, lo and behold, there was a set of shelves called Classics and a row of Muriel Sparks. So I have picked up The Comforters, which is her first novel, I think, and I plan to work my way through the others. They're all kind of about this size, you know, enough to tell a good story, but they're not going to take up the whole of your life. And I like her writing style. So I shall be exploring a whole shelf of her this year. It's going to be my Muriel Spark year. And my poet of the year probably is going to be W.H. Auden. And this is going to take a wee while to read. This are his collected poems, edited by Edward Mendelson. Now, you may say, but Heather, only recently you bought W.H. Auden's shorter collected poems, 1927 to 1957, and you'll be right. But nobody wrote in and told me, but Heather, you have already got W.H. Auden in those years in a different format. W.H. Auden. And I only discovered it myself by going to look at my bookshelves for something else and going, wait a moment, because they don't look the same. They look like they're entirely different amounts of paper or whatever, but no, they are the same. And then I was reading somebody commenting about W.H. Auden, and it kept referring to collected poems, and these were the wrong page number. They were referring to this. So I think I'm looking down the barrel of a large book I'm going to have to buy in hardback, because when you look at the depth of this, well, the reasons to buy a hardback, because it's going to stand the wear and tear. Let's face it, this is the kind of book that you're going to want to dip and dive into. And any book this size is already straining the spine, never mind being the kind of book you keep dipping into. And sometimes if you're like me, you may even put it splayed down, which is just what you must not do. But you know that because you're wiser than I am. So those are my 3 books for today. A little bit of Virginia Woolf, the Donald Barthelme, the Muriel Spark, and the W.H. Auden to dip and dive, and also to read the chapter in the book I'm reading which refers to him and uses those page numbers. I can now quickly find them. So those are the new things. But I have some good things on the go I want to tell you about as well. Romantic Moderns. I cannot praise this book enough. I'll tell you a bit about it just in case it's your particular kind of flavour of book as well. Subtitle: English Writers, Artists and the Imagination from Virginia Woolf to John Piper. It's a Thames and Hudson book, so that always means good illustrations, which are throughout instead of just grouped together in the middle. And really it's about the 1930s. So if you're interested in what happened just after modernism in the 1920s, Virginia Woolf wrote Mrs. Dalloway, and T.S. Eliot wrote The Wasteland, and everything was shifting and changing in the writing landscape. This is what happens afterwards, and it's well written. It is very much based in England and the poets and writers and artists there. Talks about John Betjeman and the love for older buildings, and especially older Georgian buildings which were falling out of favour. Georgian architecture was, of course, around the time of Jane Austen, and it was just not falling out of favour, but some people became very interested in it, and that was important because it was a time in the Georgian times that people would go for the big travel. Your finishing year, basically you went into the big tour of Europe and you came back with ideas about other countries, and it was very international. So that was good to revive. And then also this book proposes that surrealism actually came from the English act of grabbing lots of different styles and putting them all together in a house, harum scarum, and that actual fact that was a forerunner to surrealism and possibly even the start of it. And so that's a very unusual thing you don't tend to hear, that the drawing rooms and living rooms of England houses were the start of surrealism, or anything like it at all. Now on to the pile of ones looked at already. Alexandra Shulman on Clothes and Other Things That Matter, which gleamed to me out of a second-hand bookshop window. Did not disappoint. Is really interesting the way it talks about clothes and particular kinds. So I need to do a proper review of that for you. Anthony Trollope, The Eustace Diamonds, I got through. The main character was not particularly pleasant to spend time with, but what a fantastic book cover. Stunning. And he is amusing in the way he kind of keeps you company and the way he fills his life, his book full of lives. So having read The Eustace Diamonds and reading through the Pallisers, I moved on to Phineas Redux. Having read Phineas Finn, I'm here. I'm kind of stuck because it's taking a very long time. And again, you're introduced to a whole range of characters. And I'm just feeling at the moment I have so many good books to read. That's a lot. So I have other ones I'm going to go to. It's on pause. I was delighted to get this book, second-hand book, Women's Voices, Extracts from Diaries. However, as I've started reading it, it makes me realise all over again that extracts from people's letters or diaries, all jumbled about, they're all out of context. Some of them are names I haven't heard of before. I'm sure they're all interesting people, but I don't know and can look at somebody's life and say, oh yes, that fits into their life story, which I'm familiar with. They're all little tiny bits and bobs, so I'm not very convinced, and it is huge. So I don't know that I can spare the space on my shelves to have this. I think I will give it another cull to see if there's any interesting quotations, but it is 500 pages. Right, coming to the end. W.H. Auden, I obviously pick between and keep this one. So I hope that's been of interest to you this week or this month. This is going to count as my view through January, last seen reading in January. And please leave comments to say whether you find them interesting or intriguing and what your own reading is doing. So bye for now.